All right, man, let's go ahead and get into it. And yeah, this is a little something different, but I usually do this for NBA coaches anyway. And the reason why I don't do it as often for NFL coaches because there's so many nuances and factors that go into play to evaluate what's a good coach and what's not a good coach. Are they calling plays for the offense? Are they calling plays for the defense? What different coverages they run? What passing scheme, running scheme, what are they doing? What's the blocking scheme looking like? It's so many factors that can go into evaluating a good coach in this league, and also how you gonna control the locker room? Like controlling the locker room is one of the most like underrated factors of being a coach because folks think all these offensive coordinators can just come in and just take the lead job as a head coach. That's sadly mistaken because it is so many factors to play besides offense. Like for example, what's his name? Cliff Kingsbury. He was a Texas Tech head coach. He was a great offensive mind, offensive genius. And you saw how fast that locker room turned on and that his relationship with the Cardinals depreciated just like that. So yeah, it's folks gotta keep that in mind. And so yeah, the coach I'm about to talk about today for the NFL, well, he used to be a former head coach. And his name is Brian Flores. Now, Brian Flores, he started his career with the Patriots as a special team coach. Then he upgraded his way to being a defensive assistant, and that's where he landed the job with the Miami Dolphins. And with the Miami Dolphins, his record there was not bad. It really wasn't that bad. I think it's like it's either neutral or one below neutral, if I'm correct. Because in his time there, I believe he only had one losing season there. And then all the others was like, what you call like eight seasons stuff like that, nine and six, some stuff like that. And they were like in contention to make the playoffs each and every year. It's just the fact is the talent just wasn't there at all compared to where it's at now. And the defensive scheme he was running, him and his defensive coordinator, I can't remember his name, but they was running like this style of defense that was just like aggressive, trying to cause turnovers and wreaking havoc. And they were just running nothing but blitzes. It was one game that they blitzed the Ravens all game because the Ravens was so like key in on just running the ball that they really didn't have passing schemes to attack that aggressive blitzing defense. But the flip side of that is when you run an aggressive blitzing defense, you're leaving your DBs on one-on-one coverage all game. That's taxing. You have to run with folks all game, and yeah, your legs are not going to last. And then they gave him the boot after what 34 years or something like that. And folks like saw this as a surprise because folks didn't know what was going on. And then stuff started to, come out that Brian Flores didn't really have the best relationship with Tua because he really didn't want Tua. He wanted Justin Herbert, and he didn't care to have a relationship with him because you can see on the sidelines that Tua is way more receptive. He's more talkative with Mike McDaniel. Like you can tell Mike McDaniel has gotten a relationship with Tua. Brian Flores, on the other hand, he's more authoritarian. He's like tell you how it is and how it's gonna be done, and he really didn't want to develop a relationship or even care to develop a relationship with Tua. So that's why that went south. Now the locker room was still with him. It wasn't the locker room. It just his relationship with Tua. Maybe his style of defense was getting a little bit too taxing, and different other factors. But what also came out is that they tried to pull a fast one and try to get Sean Payton and Tom Brady to go to Miami Dolphins. And guess what? It was found to be true, and the Miami Dolphins ended up losing a pick. So that's why in the investigation between the NFL and Brian Flores, it's still going on, and he probably gonna have to answer some questions revolving that in his future coaching cycle that's about to come up. So yeah, and then we go into the teams currently on. Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. So the Minnesota Vikings, this is one of the best offensive teams in the league last year, right? But they was one of the worst defensive teams in the league. I'm not even just talking about the playoffs in general. Like their style of defense with Ed Donatell, I believe that's his name. He was giving up a lot of free yards. Like his like chorus coverage, I believe, he didn't, first off, he didn't have the right players for it. The players looked confused out there most of the time, and they was ultimately like too slow. They was giving up chunks and chunks of yards. They was dead last almost every category. And this style of defense wasn't going to work because yeah, you can be a great offensive team all you want to, but if you have no like trust or sustainability on defense, it's not going to work out well in the long run. So they decided to fire Ed Donatell, and they decide to interview different defensive coordinators. So we in the process, Kevin O'Connell, he looking for somebody that's going to try to be aggressive and try, cause turnover, because ultimately, if you don't like put the pressure on the QB or you don't cause turnovers, there's literally no point of you being the coordinator at that point, because just giving her chunks and chunks of yards, you just wasting your time. So Kevin O'Connell, he stumbled upon Brian Flores, who had a job with the Steelers. He was a linebackers coach over there because Mike Tomlin actually cared for Brian Flores as a human before the head coaching part, because he said during his, sorry about that, but yeah, like I was saying, Mike Tomlin, he actually cared about him than more than just being a coach. So he ended up giving him a linebackers coach job after, Brian Flores felt like he was comfortable and he felt like he wanted to get back in the coaching ranks. So after that season with the Steelers, he decided to, take some interviews with a couple different teams, but as a defensive coordinator as of right now. And then he stumbled upon the Vikings job that got open. And KOC, he was looking for somebody that had ran aggressive defensive coverages to cause turnovers and stuff for their offense to take advantage of. And they ended up having to meet. KOC, Kevin O'Connell, he said he would trust him, and every call that he made, he would be justified making. And that's all the confidence Brian Flores needed to take the job. And now he's a defensive coordinator for the Vikings. And then now, with his experience with the Dolphins, with the Patriots, and his stint with the Steelers, it was crazy. The stint with the Steelers is probably one of the most underrated aspects of all this, because, the Steelers and the college Pittsburgh, they actually run like practices like close to each other. And Brian Flores stumbled upon this scheme. I cannot pronounce his last name, but this Pat scheme from Pittsburgh, and dog, it was very effective. And he was like he was like very impressed with it, because that was something he could implement in his next job, and that's exactly what he did. But in the early weeks of that season, though, it was like just trying to straighten the edges out, as I can say, because they got gassed in the run game. I believe they gave 200 plus yards to DeAndre Swift and the crew, and the Eagles, and that was embarrassing, to be honest with you. Like, they were just picking them apart at the line of scrimmage. Nothing they could have done. Now, then the next week or the following week, they played against the Chargers, and they gave 400-some passing yards to Justin Herbert. So, yeah, things need to be changed. Like, his aggressive blitzing scheme, like, he was running blitzes at all-time highs. He was running blitzes at 63% of the time. So, what Brian Flores did, instead of just keep running blitzes all game, running one-on-one coverages, he decided to stack the box. He put 6 men in the box, and then he played zone coverage of the back end. Now, this really wasn't done, and this is the scheme that he took and implemented from Pittsburgh. So now his defenses now run zone 69% of the time and blitz 41% of the time, and they one of the best defensive teams in the league right now, especially since their QB situation has been dire. Kirk Cousins, he tore his Achilles, unfortunately. They season was going to be downhill after that. Then they have rotation QBs with Nick Mullins, Jaren Hall, Josh Dobbs, who I thought Josh Dobbs was going to be something like some type of good, especially after what he shown with the Cardinals. I don't know if that was the Cardinals scheme being so effective and hiding his deficiencies, But yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. He was throwing like hospital balls left and right, throwing picks and stuff. He was just not playing at the adequate level the Vikings saw. That's why they picked up Nick Mullins. And then Nick Mullins, dog, his arm strength and arm talent just stink, dog. Just stink. And then that's when they tried to try out the rookie, and the rookie kept getting sacked and stuff, so they brought back in Nick Mullins. So yeah, the QB situation is already dire. And the fact that they in most of these games is because of the defense. And what Brian Flores did and done throughout the season to make sure this unit is at an all-time high. Even a couple players on the team, for example, like Harrison Smith, he said this is something that he hasn't experienced before in his entire career. So yeah, Brian Flores, he'll look at positions where in this defense. No. This is not your typical 3-4 alignment where the linebacker is going to be the main focus. No, with his defense, he focuses on players and getting out to the QB. So, for example, a guy like Josh Metellus, he was a special teams guy for most of his career with the Vikings until this year. He's been used as a hybrid safety linebacker role, and he's been flourishing. And I think he's been getting out there QB, like 79 times on QB dropbacks, and I believe Harrison Smith, which is this number is the highest of his career, and 61 times on QB dropbacks. So that should tell you all you need to know how this defense is constructed. Is by playing aggressive, getting out the QB, and if they don't get out the QB, they play zone to make sure nothing's like going over top of them, or they making sure like nothing's like easy over the middle, like in a normal blitz alignment, like how they be running. And yeah, and the defensive coordinators, well, not the defensive coordinator, the coordinators within the defensive circle, right? They were like, concerned at first because they didn't know what to expect at this defense. But Brian Flores assured them that this defense is just that losing to speed folks up. They're going to make a bad read. They're going to anticipate blitz, but it's going to actually be zone since they run zone 69% of the time. 69%, and they run blitz 41% of the time. And then, for example, a team like the Green Bay Packers, whose primary play action pass, they run like this Kyle Shanahan scheme because Matt LaFleur, he came from up under that tree, so that's what they want to run. But since the defense is a 6-man, it's a loaded box, you can barely see what's going on. And then if you try play action, you get hit right in the backfield. So that's why they ran most they plays in that game versus the Vikings primarily out of gun formation. And I think they ran some pistol, if I'm correct. Because now, when you in gun, now you can see the defense of where you want to go with the ball instead of letting the defense control where you want to go with the ball. So yeah, that's all I got. You like this video, like, comment, subscribe. This is your boy Trail, and I'm out.